Hello everyone, this is Mini Ninja speaking. For today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at the Super Android number 18 figure coming from us from Class E Adventure, which, as you might recall from previous episodes, is the same group that brought us the Android number 17 clone, as well as the modified version for the Tournament of Power look, which was part of a 2-pack in that case. As we take a quick look at the packaging here, which is kind of a weird pixelated mishmash of various Android 18 figures, a bit pixely on the front here, and an odd scene on the back, which I'm not quite sure where they sourced the art for any of that stuff in a minute. It's worth noting that I don't know how to classify this particular toy. I can't call it a figure arts figure, because aside from using some base parts which were taken from the original figure arts, it's really not. And I'm not even sure I can get away with calling this a Figma figure either, because despite the fact that the toy quite liberally copies two different kind of tracksuit wearing figures in order to make up this look, it also uses a number of non-standard things which kind of differ it just enough in order to kind of make it not work as a Figma anymore. Looking at the accessories, we can see, I'll get into explaining what those heads are about a little later. The figure comes with its own stand, a bit of effect beats, a lot of different hands, and a few other accessory bits on the side there, as well as a number of other faces and more of a spread out hair look, which is pretty much copied straight from the original figure for the different sets of heads and hair. The figure itself stands at a little underneath 5 inches height, which is about give or take the same height as the original one, although proportionally speaking, because this is not based on an original figure arts head, or figure arts body I should say, proportional wise it is slightly different, namely around the length of the legs as well as the upper torso, which does stand out like a sore thumb. Getting the thing out for a kind of a general fit test and articulation check, the figure's joints are all quite nice, if a little bit stiff if anything. That being said, the upper torso is kind of a big Achilles heel for this toy, if I'm being totally frank, and that's because of the insistence on using this rubber membrane to kind of hide the ab crunch. It works from the front, but as you can see from the back there, it is entirely exposed, and while the ab crunch will work vertically, so basically you're bending the figure up and down, it doesn't look too bad, the minute you're trying to turn the figure left to right, it pretty much twists the thing out of shape just enough that it becomes more exposed, and of course anything showing the back of the figure exposes it entirely. The kind of shoulders here and elbows entirely fine, same with the wrists. The kicks and kind of hip motion, the actual kick range is very good on this figure, however there is no waist motion at all, I'm afraid. And in terms of the feet movement, you can see that it's got a pretty decent ankle pivot for what it is, however there's no toe movement whatsoever. Oh, and just to kind of go over it, the head movement is pretty good. No real neck movement at the base there, but at the top, you're able to get at least a pretty recent range up and down. It's at least as good as what the original figure had, so no real complaints there. If you're trying to get this figure into more dynamic poses, however, you also do have the included stand that comes with it, branded Class E Adventure, as you can kind of see there. And with all the holes in there, it's kind of a bit of a modified version of kind of a more action standish pose, as well as a Figma stand as well as having very similar, I'm going to say very similar kind of arms there for the most part. Although unfortunately there's something weird going on with the arms I find, where they are locked to a 90-degree angle, so you can get them to go straight, but you can't really get them to go backwards too much, even at the base, which is a bit unfortunate because that does kind of limit how poseable they are. Now that second included arm is probably meant for this effect piece here, which honestly does have a hole built in there that fits on any one of the arms just fine. That being said, due to the lack of real kicking range that is available on the actual Android figure itself, it's very hard to actually get it looking good and convincing on there as a kicking motion, just because the limited hip motion doesn't allow for good kicks. It is an option though. I might suggest using this with maybe a different stand or a different set of arms in order to really make it work though. Moving on to the other accessories, the heads themselves, honestly we're going to go just kind of a brief courtesy look on them, because they're honestly very fine. They're entirely serviceable, being that they're clones of the original heads that came with the SH Figure Arts Android 18 head from back in the day. The only thing I might bring up is that while the decals themselves are entirely fine on the faces, and frankly everything is looking good on that front, the hair itself is a bit of an odd fit I find, with the faces, or at least the bangs on them, not necessarily being always the perfect fit. And on the kind of more spread out hair here, you can kind of see there is some casting issues on the back here, as well as a little bit of paint rub, so maybe whatever they're using for the yellow of the hair might be rubbing off a bit, so just be careful when you're using that on your own figure. Now for the more accessory heavy end of it, we have the hands. Once again, it's a case where honestly they are entirely serviceable, if not maybe a little soft on the sculpt. And on top of the ones that would have came with the original figure, we do have a few odd little additions here, being the can in the hand, which is actually honestly stolen very blatantly off the original Figure Arts figure that this toy is based off of, as well as a pair of effect hands here, which are clearly meant to be holding those effect bits that are, I think, the exact same ones used for the Dragon Ball Super Era Trunks figure, as well as a few others that appeared later down on the line. The effect bits, honestly, are very nice, clean, translucent yellow. No real complaints about them whatsoever. How the hands go on and off the figure? Not a problem at all. It's actually very smooth going on and off, and they fit on there very snugly. I have no complaints about the hands whatsoever for this particular figure. Now, in case you're wondering what these little stubby bits are, they actually are replacement forearms, are kind of based off the elbow there, where if you take off your figure at the elbow there and put these ones in, they're meant to tuck into the actual pockets on the main front of the figure, so if you want it so she's walking around with her hands in her pockets, it honestly looks very good. No complaints whatsoever. That's a very good fit. Now, the last real accessory I'll mention on this a little bit is the alternate heads, aka the rejected heads. We're honestly going to do this as a really short bit, and frankly, the reason they were rejected is, as you will look in the faces, they look horrid. Look at that thing. That camera doesn't even want to get this in focus. It's just god-awful. It's like, how they even consider this as a possibility, I don't even know. In terms of the ability to move them on the eye, you would have a little pick that would be used in order to get that, which I have backwards on my hand. Let me fix that in a minute. And admittedly, in terms of the technology used there, the eye pick, it honestly does work just fine, but I'm sorry, there's just no way at the scale that you could get this look decent, I think. Not with the way these figures are designed. You needed a different kind of figure, a different art style to go with this. I'm going to be totally frank here. If you're looking to get this figure, it's honestly probably because you're looking to fill in that one little bit in your Dragon Ball Super collection, because I don't see an official version of this figure coming out anytime soon, nor do I have any idea when Mad Marco is going to come out with its Cyber-Rose equivalent. Unfortunately, in my opinion, I feel the trade-off between articulation and making things fancier with stuff like the seamless upper torso and other little odds and ends was frankly a bad trade, and a more standard figure probably would have worked out a lot better. As a small little thank you for those still watching at this point, a quick preview of what our next video is going to be about, and that's going to be the Kong Studio Whis Guko figure, as well as the accompanying headset, obviously based off Goku during the Resurrection of Elf film, as well as the part of Super. So yeah, join us for us next time. This should hopefully be better than the Vegeta figure, right? I hope so. Catch y'all later.